All right, welcome back in, everybody. Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920, The Jersey. We come to you today from the Princeton Orthopedic Associates studios, and now joining me on the show is the Super Bowl champion, now a color analyst for a very long time with the Baltimore Ravens, and that's my good friend Qadry Ismail. Q, what's happening, my friend?
Zach, what's going on with you? 2016 NFL season, the streak of Zach and Q continues.
It definitely does, but it is a somber mood today here in New Jersey because the NFL, and I love the NFL more than anyone, but it's turning into a joke with what's going on off the field with these players and domestic violence. Your reaction to what has happened once again, another black eye for the National Football League with Josh Brown?
Yeah, I just think that, you have your priorities. And I think that for whatever the reason, the NFL feels that, deflated football or, some level of having your socks down or, in some instances, giving another guy, banned for life. And at the same time, you're basically giving this guy, as far as Josh Brown, a pass. I don't know, it's troubling. It really is. It's confusing, I guess, more than anything, because of the inconsistencies of, them saying that they want to improve, their domestic violence cases and their issues. And here you have one of the quote-unquote model franchises in the New York Giants, and they clearly got it wrong. And I just don't understand, how it happened the way it happened. But, at the same time, I'm sure there'll be some spin on it, and they'll try to put a, pretty picture on it. But, no one wins in this particular case, and that's the sad thing about it overall.
Going back to the Ray Rice incident, the NFL made a major mistake, and you had to wait for a video to come out for them to really lay the hammer on Ray Rice. And I would hope that the NFL would learn from their mistakes, but I don't see it. They said that they did their due diligence, and then you hear the story yesterday about the issue between him and his wife at the Pro Bowl, where the NFL security had to relocate his wife and their children to a different hotel. How do you only give him one game? You have a 6-game penalty. I know they say there's mitigating circumstances, but that's enough evidence to me to give him the 6 games.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about it. There were plenty of reports out there that just pointed to this guy has a problem and an issue. And, it took, so much to put them in the position to say, okay, well, we'll just give them a game. And I think that's, the troubling point of it, But then again, I know this is the NFL, and, they want to, paint the picture the way they want to paint the picture. And, it's like any business. I think people try to, hide things that, they feel can hurt their bottom line. And I think, there has to be a point in time where you have to stop caring about the bottom line and start caring about the human element of it all. And clearly they did not in this particular case.
The sheriff came out today and he blasted the NFL. He said they didn't go through the proper channels. The NFL said they did go through the proper channels. We continue to see in these disciplinary actions, the commissioner continue to fall flat on his face. I believe he's an awful commissioner, and he should be out of his position as commissioner of the National Football League. How does he still have a job? Because he continues to screw up everything.
Well, yeah, I think, as much as we look at it on the outside and feel that he has made, major gaffes, and, I think the NFL Players Association has to take some responsibility with, giving him the right to be judge, jury, and executioner.
Good point.
I think at the same time, the ownership also has to look at themselves because, it's a case where he's doing his job. And as much as you or other people of the media want to jump on him, well, why not jump on the owner of the Giants or the owner of the Ravens or the owner of, and just name whatever franchise you want to name. And so they are the ones that are putting him in a position of saying, look, you take the hit for us. We are going to sit back while you do all the dirty work. We'll pay you, sure. Pay you handsomely for it. And off you go. But we won't look like the bad guys when you have to make those difficult decisions. And so I think if any outrage should be, it should be, from the ownership level that, allows this to come about, and the outrage from a player standpoint should be with the union for really, a lack of checks and balances and doing their due diligence when it comes to the collective bargaining agreement.
That's a good point, because the Giants have done an embarrassing job, and it all started with John Mara when this story first came about in August, and he was silent, waited a few days, and then eventually did make a comment. Now, Josh Brown is not with the team in London. He won't play this weekend, and that makes me wonder if he's not playing this weekend with all the backlash that you're receiving, and not only that, just the human element of this, right and wrong, and clearly Josh Brown is wrong. Why keep Josh Brown on the team?
Well, again, there's the due process / we're not going to, obviously this is not a legal case, but more along the lines of public opinion because it already went through the legal process. I think, for the NFL, they're going to kind of collect their breaths, see how they can, again, put the right spin on it, and then they'll make their decision. We're not in that seat. We're not in those meetings. We don't know what is being said. So I do know that, for them, they're going to do what they feel is best, even if it is not what we feel is the right thing to do.
One more thing on this is Qadry Ismail joins us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. We saw what happened in Baltimore with Ray Rice, and I don't condone what Ray Rice did, but since then he's done everything right to get that second chance, and he has not been given that second chance. You look at Greg Hardy, he's done everything wrong, and Greg Hardy for a while last year did get that second chance with the Cowboys. Where do you stand on the second chances with these players in regards to domestic violence? Because for me, if they show remorse, I'm willing to give them a second chance, but if they show no remorse, I don't give them that second chance.
Yeah, I think this is a country of, if you will, second chances, and I think it has to be case-by-case basis. You can't just make a sweeping generalization for every single person that has done something. We all, I don't care who you are, we all have our shadows. We all have our moments, our dark moments, and that makes us human. I think at the same time, for us to jump on a high horse and think that, we're perfect and we're holier than thou, then I think that's where you're hiding something even greater. And history has proven that out time and time again where, people want to, point the finger, oh, look at him. And yet, you got, 4 fingers pointing right back at you. So I think that, for each case you have to look at it. I think this one here as, the journal and the notes, and then obviously, what his wife is, or ex-wife now, has been crying out. I think there's some deep, deep issues. There's a chance to give him a second chance, but, I know if I was an owner of a team and I sat there and looked at the entirety of the case, I would say, yeah, give him some help, but I don't see him being on my football team.
Let's get to some smaller scale issues in the National Football League compared to what we just talked about going on with domestic violence and Josh Brown. A lot's being made about the celebration penalties. Where do you stand on that?
The celebration penalties, I think that's about a marketing tool. If you look at the NFL, because you wear a helmet, you really can't see me. If I'm trying to, quote-unquote, brand myself, everyone's into branding. Everyone's into marketing themselves. The NFL has always been about, the shield. The shield is greater than the individual. And so I can see that and I can understand it and respect it. But then at the same time, with the high level of social media, I think guys are trying to, do their best to circumvent that whole, it's the shield. And I think, what's happening is, with celebration, the NFL sees how quickly it goes and spreads. So on every social media outlet, I think that's where, again, it's like, how can we control it? Well, they're trying to control it by, putting fines out and putting penalties out and, calling it taunting and, making it a controversial thing. So to me, I think it's much to do about nothing. They should embrace it rather than shrink back from it.
And another penalty that is so inconsistent to me, because it's clear the NFL doesn't want you to celebrate, but that's pass interference. I've been watching football for a long time. You saw what happened last week in the Ravens game. That was not pass interference on Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. And then what happened to Julio Jones, that was pass interference, but it wasn't called. How do the refs get pass interference right as a former wide receiver?
Mother of pearl, that's I'm trying to get them to understand what a catch is. So, I'm like, wow, Dez Bryant still caught that ball. He's, still up there in Green Bay, and they still should be, being the ones that advanced to the Super Bowl, not Green Bay. I don't know. I really think that it's a subjective call. I think that as John Harbaugh had alluded to, I know Bill Belichick has made talk about it as well, saying that, every play should, to some level, be reviewed and get it right, with technology, although I don't think he wants to do it on a Microsoft pad. But, with technology, I think that you, in fact, can get it right and look at whether or not if a guy was targeted. I know from the standpoint of the NCAA and seeing whether or not a guy actually was targeted, whether or not, the refs got it right, if a player should be ejected or not, or if it was just a foul and off you go. But, I think something along those lines can be done. And I think the competition committee should do it because one of the things that Roger Goodell said, he's like, look, we know that viewership with HD and with all the technologies that they have at their fingertip as a remote control, I mean, with the advent of DVR alone, people are able to do so much with, viewing the game. They see it before the refs see it, and I think that's where you're crying out like, wow, what the heck? That doesn't make sense. So there's a lot there, and I think that there is a solution. I think that there should be some talk about strongly making it a solution rather than just continue to having it be a controversy.
When you mentioned Bill Belichick, it finally just popped into my head. This has been a wacky year in the National Football League with the antics of the celebration penalties and what we just talked about, what is a catch, what isn't a catch, and also pass interference, and also the ratings being down, which is very bizarre as someone that's addicted to football like myself. I guess it's a wacky year when Bill Belichick is finally talking in his press conferences. He gave a 5-minute response about those tablets.
Hey, man, he is passionate about his tablet. It's not working. So I think, he probably complained. Nothing happened. And, he's like, all right, well, I'm going to get up on my pulpit, and I'm going to explain to you guys exactly why I complained behind closed door, and nothing happened. And, I think that's that's his prerogative. And I think everything he does is calculated. So I think there was a definite purpose behind it. We're talking about it. I'm sure the people out in Silicon Valley are sitting there like, oh, boy, we're not looking so good as far as this PR. So I'm sure there's going to be something that's going to be adjusted and corrected with it.
Qadry Ismail with us on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920, the Jersey, on a Football Friday. One of the matchups coming up this weekend, a game that you're going to be on the call for, Jets and Ravens. Give us the latest on Joe Flacco.
Yeah, well, he didn't practice, again, for a second straight day. Be curious to see what they say as far as today is concerned. If he doesn't practice, I don't see him playing, although they feel like he's one of those guys that, doesn't need to practice and will be fine. It's interesting because there were some throws that he made in the Giants game that were, just off and inaccurate, and it was un-Joe-like. So I'm wondering if, in fact, he has something that is affecting his play. And if that's the case, then, if he's your franchise guy, rest him up so you can have, Ryan Mallett come in there and be the guy for the temporary, and knowing that you're helping out your team for the long term.
I don't get a chance to watch much of the Ravens. I obviously saw them last week when they played the Giants because of the market that we're in. This Ravens offense, though, it's been a mess this year. They already fired an offensive coordinator. As someone that sees each and every one of their games, what is the big issue with this offense right now?
Well, I think, there are a variety of issues, but, injuries to the offensive line, the continuity has kind of been up and down with that. With Mark Trestman as the coordinator, they definitely didn't run the ball as effectively as they should have. They go up against the Oakland Raiders. Oakland Raiders are getting gashed with big runs by Terrence West, but then they abandoned the run and they wound up throwing it well over 40 times. Joe Flacco is known to have a bad record when he throws it for 40-plus times, so you got to look at it and figure out how to adjust it. In comes Marty Morningwig. Marty Morningwig, I think he had a really good, strong game call, but ultimately, it was a loss. So you don't like losing, but at the same time, you got to look at it as a glass half full and say, okay, here's some things that we've done well. Here's some things we need to improve upon. I definitely know one thing they definitely need to improve upon is their red zone offense, which they've really struggled. They've had opportunities, but I think because of those failed opportunities, that's where, you see this team and not, being the dominant, AFC North division leader, but a team kind of stuck in neutral at 500 and 3-3.
Well, if the offense can't get it right this week against the Jets, and going into the year, I didn't think I'd be able to say that because the Jets defense on paper looked really good, but every week this Jets defense allows a big play. They got abused on the ground game last week in Arizona. It seems like the Ravens should be able, I know they are hurt, but to assert their dominance on the offense because this Jets defense, they're in a mess right now.
Yeah, they definitely tried to take away the run. I know that you're right. Arizona did a fantastic job of it, but you also look at, just the big play element that they struggle with speed receivers, and this team has plenty of speed receivers. So, yeah, this is a game, especially when you look at, the injury factor, but then you also look at, on the other side of the ball with the Jets, they've struggled in the red zone defense. I think this is where you as a team can pick up some confidence in your red zone offense, and then, defensively, Geno Smith beat you. I really am going to kind of, shudder, if you will, because you're going to look at some top-flight quarterbacks that are going to be coming up later in the year, and it's going to be challenging to think that you can squeak out wins if you can't beat a team that you should, in fact, beat.
Do you expect the Jets to play a brand of football where they're trying to prove something this weekend on offense? Because a lot was made in the offseason about how much they wanted to bring back Ryan Fitzpatrick, and the players were very vocal during that holdout. And now Ryan Fitzpatrick is on the bench. Do you think they'll be playing with a little bit more motivation this week? Because the season's over. Now you have a new quarterback, though.
I mean, motivation, everybody gets their motivation, differently. I think that you play bad, you see that there's a change going on, and more than anything, it's like self-preservation of like, oh, wait a minute, they got, him on the bench, then they can get me on the bench. I better pick up my play. I think that resonates more to guys, the self-preservation element of this game, because you can be replaced. And that's the thing that, I look at when I look at the Jets team, that you want to keep a sleeping dog chilling. You ain't trying to go ahead and wake up the dog and now all of a sudden have a fight. I think if you put this team away, if you're the Ravens, you're thinking, I got to jump up on top of this team. Let's not have them hang around. Their fans aren't going to be into it. That's what I think was also troubling as far as, what I saw from the Ravens, because, they had an opportunity to take the Giants fans completely out of the game, and they failed to do so. So I think, jumping up on this team and, putting them in a position where they have no hope, I think that's going to be a huge thing to look for to see if they can get this victory.
And last week in Arizona, the Jets were in the game. It was 14-3, although it felt like the gap was a lot worse. And to start the second half, this offense went 3 and out. You had a team with high expectations, playoff expectations, and clearly they're not going to get to the playoffs right now with the record of 1-5. When those things happen, I look to see if the coach loses the locker room and how those players respond. How do you know if a coach has lost his locker room, though?
Well, I think part of losing the locker room is the things that you and I don't necessarily see out in the open, showing up late for meetings, star players, having phantom injuries. You don't really feel like, things are working well for you, and, you kind of start pointing fingers at other guys in the media. Those are things that, really show themselves as just ugly, non-team-oriented football. And, you just hope that, from a team standpoint, that doesn't happen. If you have blowout losses and you start seeing guys, in front of the camera start, saying, well, I don't think he did this or they did this. And that's the cancer in the locker room, and that's where you got to be wise and smart and look at it and say, all right, we got to go in a different direction with this guy because he ain't a team player anymore. Let's get rid of him.
Todd Bowles is a Temple guy, so of course I'm going to like him, myself being a Temple guy, but he does need to change his ways right now with the Jets. Let's move on to another Temple player before we let you run, and that's Tavon Young. What do you like out of the young cornerback for the Baltimore Ravens?
Yeah, well, simply put, he's been out there, although he did come up a little injured in the Giants game, but he just goes out there and makes plays. That's the one thing I've seen. He had in Cleveland. Cleveland was about to jump up on the Ravens 21-0, and basically, a block kick later, he's picking it up and scooping it in and taking it down the field for 2 points. He's been intercepting passes, fairly consistently. And so I think he has that big playmaker capability. I think he'll get better as he learns the game.
Final one for you as Qadry Ismail joins us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. We are in the Princeton Orthopedic Associates studios. Your daughter plays up the road at Princeton. Tell me a little bit about your daughter and her basketball abilities.
Well, yeah, she's going into her second year, and I think Coach Banghart has a really, really good squad coming back this year. So I think, overall, it's about going out there and, the Ivy League is very fickle. I think they've had such a strong, dominant run. Penn, it came down to a 2-point game at Penn, and then basically in the fourth period, Penn, kind of ran away with it at home, and so they took the Ivy League championship. But I think that motivated the girls even more, and I think this women's team is going to be a force to reckon with.
Q, always love having you on the show. Let me know when you come up to Princeton, and we'll catch a Princeton basketball game. Appreciate it.
Indeed. Thank you, bro.
There is Qadry Ismail joining us on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920, the Jersey number, as always, 609-919-9200. We'll take a quick break. When we get back, we have to get into the spreads this week in the National Football League. More of the Zach Gelb Show as we roll along on a Football Friday.